Welcome to History Beyond Sleep, where we uncover the secrets the textbooks tried to hide.
The sea is not silent. It murmurs in waves and sighs through salt-worn air, whispering secrets to those patient enough to hear. Each current is a sentence, each tide a paragraph, each whirlpool a riddle from long ago. Beneath its mirrored surface lies memory. And among those submerged thoughts is the shape of a continent, half fact and half myth, called Atlantis. We begin, as all good stories do, with a question, not the loud kind shouted in the halls of debate, but the softer kind, the ones asked at twilight just before sleep arrives. What if the past was longer than we think? And what if those who knew the truth chose to forget? Tonight we drift gently backward, past skyscrapers and kingdoms, through candlelight and scrollwork, all the way to the 4th century before Christ, to Athens, to Plato. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, the philosopher introduces the tale of Atlantis as a recollection, a story passed down from Solon, the wise lawgiver of Athens, who, during a journey to Egypt, had been told a legend. By temple priests, the world was older than the Greeks believed, the priests claimed. There had been other civilizations before their own, one in particular, a mighty seafaring power, born beyond the pillars of Heracles, in a land of abundant harvests and perfect symmetry. Atlantis. Solon, stunned by the age and depth of Egyptian knowledge, brought this tale home. He intended to write it down, to pass it forward, but he never finished it. That task fell to his descendant, Plato, who recorded the fragments within his philosophical treatises, but he did not frame it as prophecy or poetry. He framed it as history. He spoke of a people with unmatched engineering, a city built in concentric rings, a mighty navy, and a noble lineage. But pride bloomed into corruption. Their arrogance offended the gods, and in a single night and day Atlantis fell not in war, but in water. The sea swallowed it whole. It sounds mythical, perhaps even allegorical, and many scholars have dismissed it as such. But in the shadows of academia, and in the smoky quiet of secret lodges, the tale took a different shape. Some whispered that Plato had said too much. Others believed he had said too little. For centuries, the mention of Atlantis was like a smudge on the map of history, a place that might have been, if only we could remember where. But memory, like the sea, does not forget. It only hides. Consider this. Plato was not known for fantasy. He was no dramatist. His works are dense with reason, careful with meaning. When he introduces Atlantis, he goes out of his way to assert its truth-claiming. It is a historical account told by men of wisdom and kept in stone records by the Egyptians. And if Atlantis was simply an allegory for a moral lesson, why such specific detail? Why such a vivid geography, architecture, and chronology? The answer, perhaps, lies not in the truth of the tale, but in who chose to carry it forward, and who chose to conceal it. As the centuries passed, many minds tried to make sense of Atlantis, but not all minds sought to explain. Some sought to protect, to preserve. Enter the Freemasons, a brotherhood woven from stone cutters and mystics, architects and alchemists, philosophers and kings, an organization cloaked in symbols, rituals, and ancient knowledge passed hand to hand like fire in the dark. They claimed descent, not by blood, but by thought from builders of temples long gone. from those who worked with compass and square, not merely to erect structures, but to shape understanding. And they held a profound reverence for the hidden, for lost wisdom, for truths too powerful to be spoken plainly. Could it be that among their quiet treasures was the memory of Atlantis? Some believe the Freemasons are nothing more than a fraternal order, a society of secrets and toasts. Others see them as curators of forgotten truths. To the second view, Atlantis was not myth, it was blueprint, a symbol of a balanced world of sacred geometry, of harmony between the divine and the human. Its fall was a warning, its memory a guide, but guides can become dangerous, and maps can lead to places not all are ready to find. Thus, if they knew, the Masons did not shout. They whispered, and perhaps in those whispers erased certain clues while preserving others, hiding Atlantis, not in denial, but in ritual, architecture, and metaphor. The ocean still moves, as it always has, and sometimes it gives back what it has taken. Off the coasts of Bimini, stones lie in strange, linear paths beneath the waves. In the Azores, sonar reveals curious ridges and geometric patterns under sea. In satellite images of the Sahara, faint circular impressions seem to echo Plutus' design. Yet, the scientific world hesitates, and those who look too closely are often dismissed. Perhaps that is by design. Perhaps forgetting is part of remembering. Slow, cautious, and careful. As we drift now into the deeper waters of this story, let us do so with gentleness. Atlantis may have been a place, or a warning, or a memory carefully concealed by those who believed its wisdom too sacred or too dangerous for the common mind. Whatever the truth, the tale has not died. It has only slept. And in the next chapter, we travel to the banks of the Nile, into temples where knowledge was carved into stone and guarded by those who never forgot. There Solon first heard the name Atlantis, and it is there that the silence may begin to break. For now let the sea rock us softly, and listen to what it might remember next. Some knowledge arrives not like thunder, but like a breeze over papyrus. Soft, dry, ancient. It rustles rather than roars. And so it was for Solon, wise lawgiver of Athens, lover of reason, and wanderer of the known world, when he stepped into the temples of Egypt around 600 BCE, he did not seek Atlantis, but Atlantis perhaps sought him. This chapter follows his journey, quiet, steady through sand, stone, and story, and the revelation he received, written not in ink, but in time itself. Solon was not a man given to fantasy. In his lifetime he reformed laws, built civil order, and guided Athens out of tyranny. His mind was structured, orderly. But even he knew that Greece was not the only cradle of civilization. The older, quieter lands to the south had watched empires rise and fall, long before Homer sang or columns were raised. So when he traveled to Sais in the Nile Delta, he did so with reverence. He came as a student. The priests of Sais welcomed him, and over many long evenings, by the light of braziers and beneath painted ceilings, they spoke of stars, floods, dynasties, and of one story in particular, a story of a mighty island beyond the Pillars of Heracles, that once ruled not only itself, but lands as far as Egypt and Italy. It had fallen, they said, in a single day and night. Solon was stunned, not only by the story, but by the age of it. You Greeks are like children. The high priest is said to have told him, "You have no old beliefs and no ancient knowledge. You remember nothing, and here this quiet insult wrapped in wisdom reveals so much." The Egyptians claimed their history stretched back 8,000 years before Solon's time. They spoke not in centuries, but in cycles, of kings and stars, of destruction and renewal. And Atlantis, they claimed, had existed 9,000 years before Plato ever wrote of it. Not myth, not metaphor, a real place long gone. They showed him temple, walls etched with timelines beyond Greek comprehension. They told of an ideal civilization, powerful yet noble, that had grown proud and fallen out of harmony with the divine. This wasn't just a warning. It was a memory. And Solon, ever the recorder of laws and truths, took careful notes. He planned to write a great epic, a Greek telling of the Egyptian memory, a tale not just to entertain, but to educate, to reawaken something that had long gone to sleep in the Western mind. But he never finished it. He returned to Athens, aging, and passed the tale on to family. His scrolls, now lost to time, were handed down, until they reached the hands of a young philosopher named Plato. Plato, too, was fascinated not with fantasy, but with order, with the ideal republic, with the soul of civilization. And Atlantis, as described to him, was not merely a sunken city. It was a mirror of man's rise and fall. It was both blueprint and warning, a harmony shattered, a lesson submerged. But here the mystery deepens. If Solon truly received these stories from the Egyptians, where did they get them? Hieroglyphs, it says, have long since worn away. The Library of Alexandria, where papyri from across the ancient world may have recorded the Atlantis legend, was burned, lost to history. And yet, in fragments and echoes, the story persists. Some researchers suggest the Egyptians themselves inherited their knowledge from an even older civilization, one lost not just to time, but to memory, passed down in symbols and rites, protected by priesthoods that understood the danger of too much truth too soon. In this light, Solon's scrolls were not merely notes. They were keys to an older legacy. And what became of those keys? They passed from philosopher to student, from temple to lodge, until perhaps they reached the careful hands of those who knew to keep such knowledge sealed. The Freemasons, centuries later, would echo the Egyptian priesthood in their reverence for cycles, symbols, and sacred geometries. Like the priests of Sais, they valued silence, not as absence, but as protection. To speak of Atlantis openly, after all, was to risk ridicule. To whisper it carefully was to keep it alive. Was Plato's account the last candle of Solon's scrolls, or merely the outer layer? Plato admits the story was unfinished, that Critias, the second dialogue, breaks off before the fall of Atlantis is fully described. This missing ending has puzzled historians for generations. Why would Plato stop short? Some say the tale was too vast. Others believe it was deliberate, that the rest was meant only for those prepared to receive it. In this theory, the full story was never lost. It was simply withheld, protected in mystery schools, hidden in initiations, preserved not in prose but in symbol. Solon's scrolls may no longer exist, but their breath remains. In Plato's writings, in Masonic allegories, in the architectural echoes of temples built millennia apart, yet aligned with the same stars, His journey to Egypt was more than diplomatic. It was a relay and inheritance, and the baton he passed may still be moving, hand to hand under the surface of our visible world. Let us pause here. The story of Atlantis did not begin with Plato. It came to him like a candle passed down a dark corridor. It came through Solon from the Nile, from the priests, from a memory too old to belong to one people. And that memory, if true, changes everything. In our next chapter, we drift forward into a new kind of silence, the silence of symbols. We explore how the Freemasons came to hold these same threads, how their geometry, their rituals, and their secrecy may all point back to that sunken legacy. But for now, let us close the scroll and rest, for knowledge, like seeds, grows best when it is planted gently in darkness. Behind closed doors, beneath carved stone and flickering candlelight, lies a world of whispers, not of gossip nor politics, but of memory encoded in ritual, geometry, and quiet reverence. This is the realm of the Freemasons, a brotherhood woven through centuries like a soft thread in a vast tapestry. Here, knowledge is not shouted from rooftops, but folded gently into symbols, compasses that measure more than distance, squares that shape more than angles, and pillars standing not only for strength, but for secrets. If Atlantis was once a continent drowned in pride and sea, might its memory have lived on in such places? In the slow rhythm of lodge meetings, where every gesture and emblem carries a hidden meaning, the Freemasons emerged publicly in the early 18th century, but their roots trace far deeper, back to the medieval stonemasons who built cathedrals with whispered prayers and secret signs. These builders carried knowledge technical, spiritual, and mysterious passed from master to apprentice through generations. Yet, beyond stone and mortar, the Masons nurtured a greater legacy, an inheritance of wisdom lost to time, whispered in allegories and sacred geometry. Many scholars argue the Freemasons are merely a social club, but their rituals suggest something more profound. In their ceremonies, symbols such as the all-seeing eye, the twin pillars Boaz and Jachin, and the checkerboard floor speak of balance, enlightenment, and cosmic order. These symbols have ancient origins, echoing Egyptian and even Atlantean myths. Consider the compass and square tools not just for construction, but metaphors for the mind and spirit. The compass draws circles, infinite and perfect, a symbol of the heavens and the cyclical nature of time. The square grounds us in earth, structure, and morality. Together they suggest a harmony between the earthly and the divine. Some researchers believe this balance is the essence of Atlantis itself, a civilization built on geometric harmony and sacred order. The Freemasons' emphasis on these symbols may be a living remembrance of those lost teachings. Could it be that through these rituals, the Masons preserved the heart of Atlantis, not as a sunken city, but as an ideal? The lodge is a theater of light and shadow. Its rituals are slow dances of meaning, encoded with numbers and shapes. The number 3 recurs the 3 degrees of initiation, the 3 pillars, the 3 lights, each a fragment of a larger code. The triangle, another ancient symbol, represents the trinity of mind, body, and spirit. It also recalls the 3 concentric rings Plato described in Atlantis' city design. Such parallels may be coincidence, or they may be echoes of a deeper truth, buried beneath layers of time and secrecy. Freemasonry has long been accused of secrecy, conspiracy, and hidden agendas. But perhaps their greatest secret is not power, but preservation. What if the brotherhood chose silence not to hide, but to protect, to safeguard knowledge too fragile, too profound for open eyes? In an age where truth is often weaponized, silence can be a sanctuary. The Masons may be the custodians of a legacy that stretches back beyond recorded history, a legacy encoded in stone, symbol, and story. Among the most striking symbols in Masonry are the twin pillars, Boaz and Jachin, said to stand at the entrance of Solomon's temple. These pillars represent strength and establishment opposites balanced in harmony. Interestingly, Plato's Atlantis also featured grand temples and monumental architecture, reflecting divine order and human ambition. Could the pillars be more than metaphor? Could they be keys, markers of an ancient path? Within Masonic lodges, these pillars frame the entrance to sacred space, inviting initiates to step beyond the veil into deeper understanding. Even the layout of lodges, with their checkerboard floors and specific orientations, suggests cosmic significance. The checkerboard may symbolize the duality of existence, light and dark, knowledge and ignorance, life and death. Such duality was central to many ancient philosophies, including those thought to have influenced Atlantean culture. Thus, every meeting is a meditation on balance, a silent homage to a lost ideal. The Masons' use of allegory is a delicate art. Stories of building temples are more than history. They are metaphors for self-construction, for the building of character and wisdom. And in this allegory, Atlantis becomes the ultimate cautionary tale, reminder that greatness without humility is doomed. By embodying these lessons in ritual, the Freemasons keep the story alive, not as a distant myth, but as a living guide. Their secrecy, then, is not a barrier, but a veil soft and protective. It allows knowledge to be shared only with those ready to receive it, much like Solon's scrolls passed from hand to hand. In a world eager for spectacle and certainty, such subtlety is rare and precious. As we close this chapter, imagine the quiet flicker of candlelight in a Masonic lodge, the slow echo of footsteps on polished floors, the gentle weight of symbols held close, whispered between brothers. Here lies a soft memory, one of harmony, loss, and guarded hope. The truth of Atlantis, if it exists, is not a thunderous revelation, but a quiet song passed down through ages, waiting for those who listen with patience and care. In our next chapter, we will explore the architectural secrets hidden in stone, how ancient structures across the world may carry the language of Atlantis, encoded in geometry and aligned with the stars. For now, let the echo of the lodge fade gently into your dreams. Geometry is a language older than words. It speaks softly through shapes and patterns, in circles that never end and lines that reach toward the infinite. It is the silent music of the cosmos, the breath of stars, the architecture of dreams. Tonight, we listen to that quiet language, to the geometry whispered in stone, to the ancient measurements carved by hands long vanished, and to the echoes of a civilization whose knowledge may still linger beneath our feet. Plato's Atlantis was not just a city. It was a symphony of form, described as concentric rings of land and water, temples, canals, and walls aligned with precise harmony. Every element balanced, every proportion intentional, a design that mirrored the perfection of the heavens. Such a city suggests a mastery of geometry that speaks beyond mere construction. It whispers of sacred knowledge that sees the universe as a web of interconnected patterns. This sacred geometry the Freemasons later embraced and preserved. Their symbols and rituals encode it, turning shape into meaning, structure into story. But long before the Masons, this geometry was etched into stone around the world. The pyramids of Giza stand aligned with stars in Orion's belt, their dimensions encoded with the mathematical constant pi and the golden ratio, a symbol of natural harmony. Stone circles like Stonehenge align with solstices and lunar cycles, transforming Earth into an observatory of time. Such architectural marvels suggest a shared understanding, a common language spoken across continents and centuries. Could this language have originated from Atlantis? The idea is not far-fetched to those who see in these constructions a blueprint, a fragment of a lost knowledge, transmitted through builders and priests who understood that the earth itself is a book to be read in stone. Geometry is not just science, it is metaphor. Circles speak of eternity and unity. Triangles speak of balance and ascent. Squares speak of order and foundation. The golden ratio, that mysterious proportion found in seashells, flowers, and galaxies, echoes in the design of temples and art, connecting the microcosm and the macrocosm dot in Atlantis. Perhaps these forms were not just decorative, but sacred. This sacred architecture is a memory encoded in stone. To build was to remember, to inscribe truth not only for the eye but for the soul, and those who followed carried these memories forward. Look closely at the architecture of ancient temples and lodges, the way light filters through stained glass, the way shadows fall across geometric floors, the way steps ascend in precise counts. All these are not random but deliberate, an invitation to enter into a deeper understanding. The Masons' temples themselves are designed with sacred geometry. Their halls echo with the principles of balance, proportion, and cosmic order. Every angle measured, every symbol placed with care. And through these spaces, initiates move not just through rooms, but through layers of meaning, slowly, softly, toward enlightened. This geometry, this language of memory, is a bridge between the lost world of Atlantis and the present, between myth and reality, between knowledge spoken and knowledge felt. So as you settle into rest, imagine the lines and shapes weaving around you, circles embracing like gentle arms, triangles pointing toward the stars above, squares grounding you to the earth below. In this quiet geometry lies a legacy, a memory of balance and harmony, a whisper of a world that once was, and a hope for the world yet to come. In our next chapter, we will follow the path of symbols further, tracing how Masonic rituals encode the story of Atlantis in their myths and ceremonies. For now, let the shapes cradle you gently into sleep, as the ancient language of the universe sings you softly to rest. Symbols are the whispers of forgotten worlds, soft imprints left on the fabric of time. They do not shout their meaning, but unfold slowly like petals in the dawn. To read them is to listen to the quiet language beneath the noise of history. Tonight, we delve into the secret symbols, those ancient signs and emblems woven through Masonic ritual and legend that may carry the encoded memory of Atlantis. Among the most enigmatic is the all-seeing eye, a gaze both watchful and wise, floating within a radiant triangle. Known also as the Eye of Providence, it suggests divine oversight, eternal vigilance, and, perhaps, a glimpse into the truth hidden beneath the surface. The triangle itself, ancient and sacred, frames the eye as if to focus its insight. 3. Points representing unity, balance, and the sacred trinity of mind, body, and spirit. This symbol appears on the Great Seal of the United States, on Masonic aprons, and within temple art, a silent reminder of watchfulness, guidance, and the light of knowledge piercing through darkness. Could it also be a nod to the eye that watched over Atlantis, or the gods who once governed its fate? Then there are the twin pillars, Boaz and Jachin, standing sentry at temple gates. Their names murmur strength and establishment, but their form speaks of duality, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, earth and sky. Together they mark the entrance to sacred space, a threshold between the ordinary and the divine. Their origins trace back to Solomon's temple, but echoes of such pillars appear in Egyptian, Greek, and Near Eastern architecture, hinting at a shared heritage. The checkerboard, floor black and white squares laid in perfect order, speaks of life's dual nature, joy and sorrow, day and night, knowledge and ignorance, a balance we all must navigate. Within the lodge, this pattern grounds the initiate, reminding him that wisdom arises from embracing both light and shadow. The compasses and square, Masonic tools of trade are more than instruments of measurement. They are metaphors for moral and spiritual alignment. The compass draws the circle, limitless and divine. The square shapes the world, bringing order to chaos. Together, they embody the harmony the Atlanteans may have pursued, world balanced on precision and sacred geometry. Many of these symbols predate Masonry by millennia. They appear in Egyptian temples, ancient Greek art, and even on coins from long-lost civilizations. Their recurrence suggests an ancient symbolic language, transmitted through mystery schools and secret brotherhoods. But why conceal these symbols? Because knowledge is a flame too bright for unprepared eyes. It must be sheltered, nurtured, passed down gently. Within the lodge, symbols become tools of initiation keys, unlocking inner understanding. They invite seekers to look beyond the surface, to find the deeper story. Atlantis, as a legend, warns of hubris and downfall. Its symbols remind us of balance, humility, and the sacred order of the universe. In this way, the Freemasons may be keeping not just history, but a timeless moral compass alive. As you drift toward sleep, imagine these symbols glowing softly, the all-seeing eye watching with gentle care, the twin pillars standing firm in quiet strength, the checkerboard floor guiding your steps, and the compass and square tracing paths of harmony within your heart. These are more than signs, they are whispers of a forgotten truth, a quiet beacon in the vast night of history. In our next chapter, we will explore the rituals that bring these symbols to life, and how the ceremony itself becomes a journey through memory and meaning. For now, let these quiet symbols cradle you as you rest, their gentle light guiding you softly into dreams. Flowing gently through the heart of ancient lands, the Nile carries stories whispered by the desert wind, stories of kings and builders, of gods who walked among men, and of mysteries carved in stone beneath the endless sky. Tonight we trace the quiet influence of Egypt's great river, and how its sacred rhythms and secrets found their way into the rituals and symbols of the Freemasons, perhaps preserving a fragment of the lost wisdom of Atlantis. Egypt was a civilization of water and stone, of fertile floods and towering temples, where life and death danced in eternal harmony. Its architecture, from the pyramids to the temples of Luxor, speaks in the language of sacred geometry, alignments with stars, precise proportions, and symbols rich with meaning. The Nile itself was more than a river. It was a lifeline, a bridge between worlds. Its yearly flood brought renewal, washing away the old to nurture the new, a quiet reminder of cycles of destruction and rebirth. A rhythm echoed in the rise and fall of Atlantis. Freemasonry's ritual and symbolism carry echoes of Egyptian mysteries. The twin pillars Boaz and Jachin mirror the pillars found at the Temple of Solomon, but also evoke the pillars at the gateway to the Temple of Karnak, standing tall as guardians of sacred knowledge. The all-seeing eye, so central to Masonic imagery, parallels the eye of Horus, an ancient symbol of protection, healing, and divine insight. The connection runs deeper still. The story of Osiris, the god who died and was reborn, resonates with Masonic themes of death and resurrection. Hearing Abif's allegory, central to the Master Mason degree, reflects this cycle of sacrifice and renewal, suggesting that Freemasonry carries forward not only symbols but ancient spiritual teachings. Egyptian wisdom was passed through mystery schools' hidden chambers, where priests preserved knowledge in symbols and rituals, much like the lodges of the Freemasons centuries later. These schools guarded secrets of the cosmos, of life and death, and of the path to enlightenment. They understood that true knowledge is both seen and felt, spoken and silent. The connection to Atlantis emerges in these mysteries, in the reverence for sacred geometry, in the stories of a great flood washing away a once great civilization, and in the enduring quest for harmony between earth and sky, body and spirit. As night deepens, imagine the Nile's slow flow beneath starlit skies, its waters carrying the wisdom of ages, its banks lined with temples where silent priests once whispered secrets into stone. Feel the pulse of that ancient river echoing through time, its quiet strength flowing into the symbols and stories of the Freemasons, a living thread tying past to present, myth to ritual, and Atlantis to the human heart. In our next chapter, we will journey further into the architectural marvels that embody this ancient wisdom, exploring the ways in which temples and lodges alike serve as gateways to forgotten truths. For now, let the gentle current of the Nile carry you softly into sleep, its timeless song a lullaby for the soul. Stone remembers what voices forget. Even when the builders turn to dust, their hands speak through what they shaped. Temples rise as frozen prayers, structures of both gravity and grace, built not just to house the divine, but to become it. Tonight we walk softly through these ancient sanctuaries, from the lost columns of Atlantis to the sacred chambers of Egypt and beyond. We trace how stone became a scripture, and how its secrets may still live on in the geometry of Freemasonry. Across deserts and highlands, deep jungles and wind-swept plains, temples rise like echoes. The pyramids of Giza, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the temples of Angkor Wat, and the sacred shrines of the Andes Though scattered by geography, their language is shared. Sacred alignment, solar orientation. Geometries not of convenience, but of cosmic meaning. These were not random constructions. They were messages carved into the bones of the earth. Consider the Great Pyramid, a monument older than most written languages. Its base aligns almost perfectly to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Its dimensions encode the ratio of pi, the golden mean, and the curvature of the earth. And yet, its stones, some weighing over 80 tons, fit with such precision that not even a blade can pass between them. It was not merely a tomb, it was a map, a mirror, a mystery dot in the same spirit. Masonic lodges are designed with deliberate geometry. The floor is a checkerboard, black and white, representing duality. The lodge faces east toward the rising sun, the ancient symbol of illumination. The ceiling is often adorned with stars, representing the canopy of heaven. The very act of entering a lodge is to step into sacred space, not just architecturally, but symbolically. It is to enter the inner temple, the temple of the self. The Masons believe their lineage traces back to the builders of Solomon's temple, a structure said to be crafted according to divine blueprint, in silence with no sound of hammer or chisel heard during its erection, but the connection may be deeper still. The precise geometries of Solomon's temple echo those of earlier civilizations. The twin pillars, the golden proportions, the sacred inner sanctum. Could these patterns have traveled not just through time, but through secret hands? Freemasonry reveres the idea of the temple, not simply as a physical place, but as a metaphor for inner development. Every Mason is seen as a rough ashlar, a stone to be worked, refined, perfected. And the lodge is where this quiet labor of the soul takes place. The ancient temples, too, served this dual purpose, not just to worship, but to transform, to align the initiate not only with the gods, but with the harmony of the universe. The temples of Atlantis, as described by Plato, shimmered with this same intent. He speaks of a central shrine to Poseidon, encircled by rings of land and sea, walls plated with precious metals, brass, tin, orichalcum, altars where animals were sacrificed, but also where laws were recited in silence, a city not built for war, but for wisdom, not for wealth, but for balance. It was perhaps the ultimate temple, a civilization built as a living expression of sacred design. If it existed, and if its builders understood the language of shape and star, then perhaps they passed on their knowledge before the waves claimed their home. To Egypt, to the Levant, to secret schools, to stonecutters and mystics who guarded the old codes within new temples, until one day those codes found new life in the whispered rituals of Freemasonry. The temple endures because it evolves. Its form changes, but its meaning remains, a place between worlds, a point of stillness in the turning of time. The Masonic Lodge, the cathedral, the pyramid, and the Atlantean Rings City, all are variations of the same sacred idea. Each one reminds us the divine is not above us. It is all around us, shaped in stone, written in proportion, echoed in silence. As you prepare to close your eyes tonight, imagine a temple not of marble or gold, but one within you formed of memory, breath, and wonder. Feel its pillars rise. With every breath, its roof stretch wide with stars. its sacred flame glowing soft in the stillness of your chest. That temple is yours, and in its quiet halls the truths of forgotten civilizations may yet be remembered. In our next chapter, we descend into the myth and mysticism of the Rosicrucians, another secretive brotherhood said to carry the wisdom of the ancients. Are they guardians of the same flame or its older origin? For now rest within the walls of this quiet temple. Let its calm geometry lull you into gentle sleep. Some truths wear veils, not to deceive, but to protect. Like morning mist cloaking a quiet valley, the veil offers gentleness where light might be too sharp. So, too, the Rosicrucians stepped quietly into history, a brotherhood of silence, of symbols, and of secret light. While the Freemasons worked in stone, the Rosicrucians worked in soul. Alchemists of the spirit, mystics of the written word, their roots stretch deep through Europe, through Egypt, and perhaps deeper still. To Atlantis. It began, as many mysteries do, with a book. In the early 1600s, a series of strange, anonymous texts appeared in Germany, the Fama Fraternitatis, the Confessio Fraternitatis, and the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz. These were no ordinary books. They were manifestos, encoded messages filled with allegory, hermetic philosophy, and celestial metaphors. They spoke of a hidden order, a brotherhood of enlightened minds, working quietly to heal a broken world. They claimed no power, no nation, no church, only knowledge and the patient, invisible shaping of a higher future. But who were they? The Rosicrucians did not meet in cathedrals or public lodges. They did not wear aprons or raise pillars. They gathered in secret, or not at all. Their temple was the mind, their altar the inner flame. The symbol of the Rosicrucians, a rose upon a cross, held deep meaning. The cross, a symbol of matter, suffering, and earthly limitation. The rose, blossoming at its center, spoke of the soul unfolding. The divine, blooming within the temporal dot. It was not just a sign, it was a code. Many scholars see the Rosicrucians as part of the same esoteric current as the Freemasons. Others suggest they came earlier, perhaps much earlier. They spoke of ancient wisdom brought from the East, of truths passed down through Sufi mystics, Greek philosophers, and Egyptian priests. And though they claimed no direct connection to Atlantis, the themes are unmistakable. A lost age of knowledge. A fall. A hidden flame waiting to be relit by the worthy. The Rosicrucian texts often described a house of the Holy Spirit, a mysterious sanctuary filled with books, instruments, and secret chambers, a place of both science and sacredness. It is tempting to see in this house a shadow of Atlantis, a memory not of gold and empire, but of knowledge once held in balance. The description mirrors Plato's tale, a civilization rooted in natural law and cosmic alignment, destroyed when pride outpaced wisdom. Like Atlantis, the Rosicrucians did not wish to be found. They made no claims of authority. Instead, they invited the sincere seeker to look inward, to find the temple within. And yet, the influence of their writings stirred Europe. Philosophers, scientists, mystics, and poets all felt their pull. Even those who doubted their literal existence felt their symbolic weight. They offered a blueprint, not of buildings, but of being, not of cities, but of civilizations that remember the soul. The similarities with Masonic ideas are striking. Both groups use allegory, initiation, and secrecy. Both speak of light, transformation, and moral balance. Both revere ancient wisdom and view history as cyclical. But while Masonry walks in structure and symbol, Rosicrucianism floats half vision, half vow. It is as if the Freemasons built the outer temple, and the Rosicrucians tended the flame inside. Some believe the two were never separate, that certain high-degree Masons also held Rosicrucian rites, that under the many names Templar, Alchemist, Hermeticist was one thread, winding back through Egypt, Sumer, and perhaps to Atlantis. The veil, in this case, was not deception. It was preservation. If the Rosicrucians carried fragments of Atlantean knowledge, they did so gently, hidden within poetic texts and quiet meditations. They understood that power without preparation leads to ruin, as Atlantis had shown. So they wrapped their wisdom in stories and scattered it like seeds, to bloom only where the soil was ready. Tonight, imagine this: a candle in a stone chamber, flickering beside a simple wooden desk. On the desk, a book bound in leather, etched with a rose. It opens not with instructions, but with symbols. And as you read, you do not learn facts. You remember something deeper. This is the Rosicrucian veil, not to conceal, but to awaken. Not to mystify, but to protect what is precious from being misunderstood. In our next chapter, we will turn to the legends of the Great Flood, stories from every continent, every culture, tales of waters rising and worlds falling. Were they merely metaphor, or the memory of Atlantis drowned? For now rest beneath the soft veil. Feel the rose unfolding in your chest, and let sleep carry you inward, to the quiet sanctuary within. Some stories are told not with certainty, but with echoes. In every land, across every time, from mountain-top shrines to rainforest firesides, humans have spoken of the same memory, of a world washed away, a great flood, a cleansing wave, a moment when the earth groaned and what once was became no more. Tonight we wade gently into the waters of this collective remembrance, to ask not whether Atlantis alone was lost, but whether it was one among many forgotten worlds, swept away by the rising tide, and to ask softly whether the Freemasons and their symbolic descendants preserved not only blueprints, but stories of floods, of fire, and of balance broken. The flood myth is older than writing. It is older than empire, and perhaps older than language itself. The Sumerians spoke of it in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where the god Enlil sends a great deluge to punish mankind. One man, Utnapishtim, is warned. He builds a vessel, survives the storm, and is granted a form of immortality. In the Hebrew Bible, it is Noah, a just man in an unjust time. A flood sent not in cruelty, but in consequence. The same tale is mirrored in Hindu texts, where Manu, the progenitor of humankind, is warned by a fish and builds a boat to survive the cosmic dissolution. The Maya, the Hopi, the Yoruba, the Norse, each culture holds its own version of the story. The details shift, but the shape remains: a golden age, a fall, a flood. Why do so many disparate peoples remember the same thing? Some say it is coincidence. That water, ever present, is a perfect symbol for change, that the flood is a metaphor for rebirth, and perhaps it is, but what if it is also memory? Plato tells us that Atlantis fell in a single day and night. Not from war, not from famine, but from water. His story does not stand alone. It joins a chorus of ancient voices remembering a cataclysm not imagined, but witnessed. Modern geology confirms that around 11,000 years ago, the Earth experienced sudden, violent shifts. The end of the last ice age brought rising seas. Shorelines vanished. Islands were swallowed. Entire regions reshaped. Could Atlantis have been one such place? A city, perhaps, a continent lost, not to fantasy, but to the sea? And could those who survived have scattered to Egypt, to the Andes, to forgotten shores carrying fragments of a broken world? Fragments that would one day form the myths, the rituals, and the secret teachings of later generations? Freemasonry speaks often of cycles of fall and rebirth. The temple destroyed, then rebuilt. The initiate buried, then risen. In its symbolism, one can feel the soft echo of flood and fire, not just as destruction, but as cleansing. Fire, too, plays a role in these tales. Some myths speak not only of water, but of fire from the sky, of stars falling, of days turned black. The Zoroastrians told of a world-ending conflagration. The Norse spoke of Ragnarok, fire, flood, and the death of gods. Some scientists suggest these tales may echo real events: asteroid impacts, volcanic winters, solar storms. If true, our ancestors were not just storytellers, they were survivors. The role of the initiate, then be it mason, mystic, or monk, is not only to learn, but to remember. To carry the torch through darkness, to keep the pattern alive when the world forgets. In this light, the myth of Atlantis is not a tale of vanity or punishment. It is a parable of memory, of sacred knowledge submerged but not lost. And the Freemasons, with their reverence for rebuilding, may be the stewards of this echo, the quiet builders after the storm, their symbols, pillars rising from ruin, compasses drawing new circles, are not only tools of construction, but of continuation, a reminder that after every flood, a temple can be raised again. As you drift toward rest, imagine the gentle hush of the sea at night, not roaring but breathing, not destroying but remembering. Beneath the waves perhaps lie entire cities, quiet as dreams. And in those submerged halls, the fire of wisdom still flickers, waiting for those who listen to symbols and follow the threads left in story.n. Our next chapter, we return to land, to the possibility that Atlantis, if real, left behind more than myth. Did its architects leave blueprints in our oldest cities? Do certain structures still speak its language? For now, let the floodwaters retreat, let the fire cool, and rest in the knowledge that not all is lost. Some truths, like seeds, sleep beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise again. Beneath the surface of myth and memory lies the quiet possibility of design, a blueprint etched not only in stone, but in the very foundations of our oldest cities. Tonight we explore the idea that Atlantis left behind more than stories, a pattern of knowledge woven into architecture and geometry, waiting patiently for discovery. From the ancient city grids of Egypt and Mesopotamia to the star-aligned temples of the Americas, structures hum with subtle, deliberate order, their builders guided by principles, both mathematical and mystical. This blueprint speaks of harmony between earth and sky, time and space, human and divine, Consider Plato's description of Atlantis' capital, concentric, rings of land and water, perfectly balanced and aligned. A city designed with a harmony that transcends utility, each circle flowing into the next like ripples on a tranquil pond. This concept resonates with the sacred geometry found in later civilizations. Sacred geometry is more than shape or proportion. It is the language of connection, of how everything relates, from the smallest seed to the vastest star. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, the Vesica Piscis, patterns repeating through nature and human creation alike. Temples, pyramids, and cathedrals were designed using these principles, creating spaces that feel alive, resonant, and eternal. The Freemasons have long revered sacred geometry as a key to hidden knowledge. Their compasses and squares are not mere tools of construction, but symbols of cosmic order. The compass draws circles, the infinite, the cyclical. The square represents the material world, the foundation. Together, they remind initiates of the delicate balance at the heart of creation. Some researchers suggest that the blueprint of Atlantis itself was based on these geometric truths. Its layout, rings, temples, waterways reflects an advanced understanding of proportion and harmony, imparted perhaps by a civilization deeply attuned to nature's design. If Atlantis fell, this knowledge did not perish with it. It traveled, encoded in symbols, myths, and structures that look to Egypt. The Great Pyramid's dimensions embody the golden ratio in pi, its orientation aligned with true north with breathtaking precision. The Temple of Karnak is aligned with the rising sun at the winter solstice, a celestial calendar cast in stone dot in Mesopotamia. Ziggurats rise in stepped pyramids, each tier symbolizing a spiritual ascent, their form echoing a cosmic mountain. Sacred axis between earth and heaven. Across the ocean, the ancient city of Teotihuacan in Mexico reveals the same reverence for proportion and alignment. Its Avenue of the Dead aligns with the Pleiades star cluster, its pyramids laid out with mathematical precision. These parallels are striking. Could they be independent discoveries or the residue of a shared blueprint, traveled and transformed through time and space? Freemasonry's symbolic architecture is part of this continuum, the lodge a microcosm of the universe, its design steeped in intentional order and meaning. Every element from the pillars to the tracing boards is a piece of the greater puzzle, an echo of the Atlantean legacy. Yet this blueprint is not just external. It also speaks inward. The temple is a metaphor for the human soul, the geometry a guide to inner harmony. To build a temple in stone is to build a temple in spirit. The initiate's journey mirrors the architect's plan, transforming rough stone into polished light as you imagine these ancient blueprints unfolding beneath the earth and stars. Feel the quiet pulse of knowledge flowing through time, a current beneath the noise of history. The blueprint invites us to remember that we are part of a larger design, connected by threads of proportion, pattern, and purpose. Tonight, rest in the calm certainty that this blueprint, hidden or revealed, shapes more than stone. It shapes the way we see, dream, and become. And when you next trace the circle of the moon or the square of your own breath, remember the builders of Atlantis, who first dreamed of harmony between earth and sky, and passed their vision down through the ages. In the next chapter, we will explore the secret symbols scattered through history's greatest mysteries. marks of the Atlantean blueprint hidden in plain sight, and their whispers within Freemasonry's sacred art. For now let these blueprints guide you gently into sleep, a map not just of cities, but of the soul's eternal journey. Symbols speak in silence. They are the shadows cast by light we cannot always see, echoes of truths too profound for words. Alone. Tonight we step softly into the world of symbols, the hidden language carved into stone and whispered in shadow, where Atlantis may still be traced, not in ruins, but in signs. Throughout history, symbols have been the vessels of secret knowledge. They travel through time, shifting shapes yet retaining essence. Freemasonry, with its rich tapestry of emblems, is a guardian of this silent lexicon, an order weaving ancient symbols into its ritual and art, connecting present to past with subtlety and care. Consider the compass and square Masonic icons. Familiar and profound. The compass drawing circles of infinite perfection, the square grounding that perfection into earthly order. Together they speak of balance between heaven and earth, spirit and matter, chaos and form. Could these be echoes of Atlantean geometry? Or perhaps a coded reminder that all true creation begins with harmony. The all-seeing eye, another powerful symbol, watches silently from Masonic altars and ancient walls alike. Known as the Eye of Providence, it speaks of awareness beyond the visible, a guardian of knowledge and the eternal watchfulness of the universe. In some interpretations, it mirrors the third eye, the seat of intuition and inner vision, hints of an ancient wisdom that transcends time and space. The pentagram, the five-pointed star, dances between the earthly and the divine. Its 5 points symbolize the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, a microcosm of the universe itself. Some scholars trace this star back to Atlantis, where it may have represented the perfect balance of natural forces. Freemasons and Rosicrucians both revere this symbol, not as mere decoration, but as a key to spiritual alchemy. Stone itself is a silent storyteller. From the hieroglyphs of Egypt to the reliefs on Gothic cathedrals, each carving holds a message, a cipher etched in time. Many Masonic temples and lodges are rich with these symbols, their facades a canvas of encoded history. Could these carvings be more than decoration? Could they be fragments of Atlantean wisdom preserved through centuries of change? A secret conversation between builders and seekers, a trail left for those who listen closely. Even the layout of ancient cities can be symbolic. Streets aligned with stars, pyramids echoing constellations. These designs speak of a worldview where earth and sky were one, a vision Atlantis may have first embodied, passed down through generations and disguised as myth. The shadow plays a role, too. Light reveals, but shadow conceals and protects. Symbols often hide in plain sight, their true meanings veiled beneath layers of interpretation. The Freemasons' secret handshakes, coded words, and ceremonial tools are part of this dance, a gentle guarding of knowledge, ensuring it is earned and not exploited. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine walking through an ancient temple, its walls alive with symbols glowing softly in twilight. Each mark a whisper, each shadow a story. You are not just a visitor, but a participant in a timeless ritual, a seeker tracing the footsteps of those who came before. Symbols ask us to look deeper, to listen beyond words, to feel the pulse of forgotten wisdom beneath the surface of our modern world, and in that quiet space, perhaps we find the true legacy of Atlantis, not a lost city of gold, but a lost language of meaning waiting patiently to be remembered. In the next chapter, we will explore the mystical rituals within Freemasonry that may carry this ancient knowledge, ceremonies not just of form, but of transformation, bridging the seen and unseen. For now, rest with the gentle presence of symbols around you, their silent light guiding you softly into dreams. There is a kind of light that does not burn the eyes, a quiet light, hidden not in the sky, but within. It is not taught, but remembered, not shown, but revealed slowly through gesture, silence, and symbol. This is the light the Freemasons seek, not the light of fame or fire, but the inner light, the light of knowing. And tonight we walk the path of that search. Freemasonry is built upon ritual, not empty ceremony, but carefully woven acts of meaning. Each degree, each gesture, is part of a hidden architecture, a sacred rite designed to awaken what has long slept. The initiate enters in darkness, not as punishment, but as preparation. The blindfold or hoodwink is not to obscure truth, but to invite trust, to surrender outer sight in favor of inner vision. This moment mirrors the world before. Atlantis fell, a time of balance before pride clouded clarity. And so the journey begins, not with knowledge, but with unknowing. Only then can one truly see. The rite of the hidden light begins not in brilliance, but in dimness. Within the lodge, the initiate is guided through spaces dense with symbol, pillars, altars, candles, and tools, each one chosen with care, each one holding a layer of meaning. These objects are not just physical. They are psychological mirrors, placing the initiate within a sacred story, one older than memory. The tools of the Mason, the gavel, the square, the level, become instruments of the soul. They shape not stone, but character. The gavel breaks away the roughness of ego. The square teaches moral clarity. The level reminds all of equality, that kings and beggars stand equal before truth. Such teachings reflect a society once imagined, an Atlantis just, balanced, wise, a city ruled not by power, but by principle. The entered apprentice degree is only the beginning. It teaches humility, the awareness of ignorance. In this, it resembles the first step out of Plato's cave, turning away from shadows toward the first glimmer of light. The fellowcraft degree deepens the journey. Here the initiate is shown the 7 liberal arts: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. These are not just subjects. They are keys, portals through which the mind may rediscover its higher pattern. In this knowledge, there is a whisper of the Atlantean blueprint, a civilization rooted in sacred science. Finally, the Master Mason degree brings transformation. It is not a reward, but a symbolic death. The initiate reenacts the murder of Hiram Abiff, the legendary builder of Solomon's temple. Hiram's death is not merely a loss, it is the moment when outer mastery fails and inner wisdom begins, is buried in silence and rises in light. This resurrection is not religious. It is archetypal. It reflects the fall of Atlantis and the hope that what is lost can still rise again, refined, wiser, and inwardly illumined. These rituals are not theatrical. They are encoded. They guide the initiate into deep psychological landscapes. An inward temple, constructed stone by stone. They do not teach truth. They awaken it. And in this process the light once hidden begins to glow. Freemasonry's secrecy has long drawn suspicion, but secrecy in its original form meant something sacred, something set apart, a space where the profane cannot tread, where the eternal might whisper. The right of the hidden light guards not power but process. A soul must be shaped slowly, like stone beneath a careful hand. Atlantis, if it was lost in sudden destruction, is remembered here through slow reconstruction, not of cities, but of selves. The light the Freemasons speak of is not given. It is earned. It arises not from others, but from within. And perhaps this, too, is the legacy of Atlantis. That true illumination cannot be preserved in stone or scrolls, but only in the quiet readiness of the human heart. As you prepare for sleep, let the ritual's rhythm echo in you. Close your eyes gently. Imagine a hall of stone and candlelight. Feel the soft pressure of a hoodwink, the stillness before the light returns. And when that light is lifted, see not with your eyes, but with the memory of something deeper, something you've always known. In our next chapter, we will explore the mysterious ancient maps which hint at lands lost beneath the waves, and knowledge perhaps preserved not by legend, but by cartographers who knew more than history admits. For now let the hidden light guide you gently to rest. It is not far. It is within, long before satellites, before telescopes and modern maps. There were men who charted the world from memory, vision, and perhaps from whispers of what once was. Tonight, we turn our gaze to the mapmakers, those curious figures in dusty robes who drew coastlines that should not have been known, and islands that no longer appear. Maps are more than paper and ink. They are memories flattened into form, and some of them centuries old may hold the outlines of Atlantis. The most famous of these is the Piri Reis map. Drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral, it shows the western coasts of Europe and Africa, and the eastern edge of the Americas, a remarkable feat for its time. But what draws attention is the bottom of the map. It seems to depict the coastline of Antarctica free of ice. Modern science tells us that the Antarctic coast has been buried beneath ice for more than 6,000 years. Yet here it is, drawn with unnerving precision. How could Admiral Piri Reis have known? He wrote in the margins that his map was compiled from older sources. Maps drawn in the days of Alexander the Great, he claimed. Fragments from forgotten libraries. This is not the only strange map. The Orontius Phineas map of 1531 also shows an ice-free Antarctica. So does the Boucher map of 1737, including mountain ranges beneath the ice, confirmed centuries later by modern seismic scans. Each cartographer claimed to be working from ancient materials, charts handed down, recopied, preserved, but never understood. Who made these originals? Were they remnants of a civilization we have forgotten? A people who knew the earth not through telescopes, but through a different science, one perhaps preserved by temple priests or encoded in the scrolls Solon once saw in Egypt. If Atlantis was real, and if it fell not only to water but to time, its maps may have survived, protected in the shadows, copied in silence, then resurfaced by men who knew not what they held. Freemasonry, ever entwined with symbols and secrecy, has long honored the idea of hidden knowledge preserved across ages. Its reverence for the compass is no coincidence. The compass is a navigator's tool, not just for builders, but for explorers of land and soul. In Masonic tradition, navigation is more than direction. It is alignment with truth, with order, with the divine dot, could the maps we've inherited from these hidden cartographers be more than geographical artifacts? Could they be messages? Atlantis, if it was once a center of sacred knowledge, would have possessed advanced understandings of Earth's curvature, star positions, and the placement of land and sea. The circular design Plato described was more than aesthetic, it was practical. Astronomical, symbolic dot, such a people may have mapped not only continents, but ley lines, energy paths, the harmonics of the earth itself, and if they foresaw their fall, might they have encoded that knowledge in diagrams to survive beyond their stone and fire? There are whispers unproven, yet persistent, that certain esoteric orders, Rosicrucians, Templars, Freemasons, inherited fragments of these ancient charts, not maps of empire, but of consciousness, of how the earth once was and how it may be again. Even the grid systems of modern cities bear faint echoes of ancient planning. Washington, D.C., for example, was designed by Freemason peer L'Enfant, using a geometric layout aligned with celestial markers, the placement of government buildings, the orientation of roads. To some, it's coincidence. To others, it's code dot, and behind the visible, there are always those who see further, the hidden cartographers. Not all mapmakers use ink. Some use ritual. Some use dream, some use symbol, to guide others through the inner terrain. As you lie down tonight, imagine unrolling an ancient scroll, its surface yellowed with age, its lines drawn by steady, forgotten hands. You see islands that no longer exist, shorelines reshaped by time, and in the center, a circular city ringed with water. And light. This is not a map of where, but of when, a memory of a world that once was, and perhaps a map back to what could be. In our next chapter, we travel to a different kind of archive, not a library, not a temple, but the quiet vaults of secret societies. What books and scrolls did they keep safe? And did any of them contain the missing records of Atlantis? For now, roll the map back up, tuck it gently beneath your pillow, and drift into dreams of distant coasts and stars that once guided lost worlds home. Some libraries burn, others disappear in silence. And then there are the libraries that never had doors at all, not of brick and beam, but of memory and symbol, hidden not in stone towers, but in rituals, in oaths, and in the whispered passing of ancient truths. Tonight, we step into such a library. Not a place, but a presence, preserved within the quiet corners of lodges, behind the eyes of those sworn to remember what the world forgot. When the great library of Alexandria fell to flame, the world lost a reservoir of ancient knowledge, thousands of scrolls, maps, and treatises, some said to have recorded the full history of mankind. Legends whisper that not all was lost, that certain texts were rescued, hidden, smuggled east to Persia, west to Spain, and into the hands of those who understood their value. Among those hands, some believe, were the early keepers of what would become the Masonic tradition. Freemasonry, by its own telling, is not the beginning of something, but a continuation, a stream flowing from older rivers, from the builders of Solomon's temple, from the mystics of Egypt, and perhaps from survivors of Atlantis. If a people once held the wisdom of the stars, they would not have trusted it to paper alone. They would have sealed it into the one structure time cannot erode, the human mind. So perhaps not every library has shelves. Perhaps some are kept alive through memory, repetition, and sacred space. Freemasonry's lodges are more than meeting rooms. They are designed as temples, microcosms of the cosmos, carefully measured and symbolically adorned. Within them, a different kind of reading takes place, not with the eyes, but with the soul. Every initiation, every degree is a page turned, every symbol a paragraph, every silence a footnote. Imagine a brotherhood that preserved the knowledge not through writing, but through experience. Each initiate, a vessel. Each ritual, a coded message passed hand to hand. This is the unwritten library, a lineage of light hidden beneath the floorboards of history. And just as books are burned in times of fear, so too were these teachings kept behind veils not of deception, but of care. The idea that the Freemasons might have inherited fragments of Atlantean knowledge may sound romantic, even impossible, but history is not always linear. Sometimes it folds back on itself. We know that early modern thinkers, Newton, Bacon, were fascinated by the idea of lost ancient knowledge. Many were rumored to be Rosicrucians or Masons themselves. They believed civilization had once stood higher, and that remnants of its wisdom could be recovered, not through conquest, but through inner transformation. What would an Atlantean book contain? Not politics or battles, but truths of proportion, vibration, healing, time. Blueprints not only for cities, but for consciousness. Perhaps some of those blueprints remain translated into symbols, woven into Masonic tracing boards, hiding in plain sight. It is said that high-degree Masons are exposed to more esoteric teachings, lessons not taught, but revealed slowly through readiness, not rank. Could these deeper degrees contain echoes of Atlantean remembrance? Some believe that within certain Masonic rites, particularly those influenced by Scottish Rite or the York Rite, lie allegories of a lost golden age, a flood, a sacred rebuilding, the theme of the destroyed temple, and the quest to rebuild it is ever present. And what is Atlantis, if not the great temple beneath the waves? Libraries are more than books. They are accumulations of thought, devotion, curiosity. Even when paper is lost, the ideas persist. The lodges in this light are temples of remembrance. Their rituals, a way of keeping the past alive not in facts, but in feeling, not in names and dates, but in the unspoken certainty that something precious was lost and must be found again, not in the world, but within, tonight, as you're breathing. Slows and the world quiets, picture a lodge lit by flickering flame. In its center stands not a man, but an idea ancient, waiting, awake. Around him, symbols move like soft constellations, spelling out a message he cannot read, but somehow remembers. He is part of the library. And so are you. In our next chapter, we will travel west toward a new world, and ask whether those who crossed the sea were seeking not just land, but something lost. Did the compass point toward empire, or toward memory. For now let the hush of the unwritten library settle gently around you. You need not read to understand. Only rest. And remember, not all voyages begin with a destination. Some begin with a question, and sometimes a compass doesn't point north. Sometimes it points toward memory, toward a place lost, not on the map, but beneath it. Tonight, we follow the compass westward, across oceans and centuries, to explore whether those who sailed from Europe in search of a new world were also, quietly, seeking something far older, something forgotten. To most of history, the story of the age of exploration is simple. Gold, trade, empire, a thirst for spices, new land, and new power. But behind the sails and sovereigns, there were men whose motivations were more subtle, whose curiosities reached deeper. Men who believed the new world was not new at all, but ancient, a veiled continent that might hold the last remains of a world long thought drowned. Legends abounded in Europe of a lost land beyond the Pillars of Heracles, beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, where a great civilization once flourished. Plato placed Atlantis west of this very strait, and as ships turned their bows toward the horizon, some whispered that they were sailing not into the unknown, but back toward something old. Christopher Columbus himself was deeply influenced by myth. Though he claimed to seek a western route to Asia, he carried with him not just maps, but fragments of old lore. In private letters and marginal notes, Columbus spoke of ancient philosophers, of lands hidden by divine will, and of the world being far more connected and more mysterious than the Church believed. In the years that followed, as the Americas were unveiled to European eyes, the discoveries stunned the scholars of the time. Cities of stone, pyramids aligned with stars, temples measuring time with cosmic precision. How, they wondered, could such knowledge exist among people supposedly untouched by classical civilization? But what if these were not separate stories? What if the temples of Mesoamerica and the pyramids of Egypt were branches of the same ancient tree, roots once joined in a single forgotten homeland? Freemasonry, ever the student of such mysteries, watched the unfolding of the new world with great interest. As lodges spread across the Atlantic, from London to Boston, Paris to Philadelphia, they carried not only Enlightenment ideals, but something older, a reverence for sacred architecture, hidden wisdom, and symbolic rebirth. The founding fathers of the United States, many of whom were Masons, designed their new nation not just as a republic, but as a symbolic resurrection, a kind of philosophical Atlantis. Washington, D.C. was laid out with geometric precision, its monuments aligned with stars, its founding steeped in ritual. It is no accident that America became a haven for secret societies, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, esoteric thinkers. The land itself seemed to beckon those seeking to rebuild. Not just nations, but ideals. A compass then pointed not simply to expansion, but to restoration. And what of the indigenous peoples of the Americas? They, too, held stories of great floods, of star beings and sunken cities. The Hopi speak of previous worlds destroyed by water. The Maya encoded cycles of rise and collapse. In their calendar stones, their myths, when listened to with care, do not contradict Plato's tale. They harmonize with it. Atlantis, then, may not have ended in fire and silence. It may have scattered like seeds into new lands, new cultures, new forms. Perhaps the real voyage of the West was not to discover, but to remember, to retrace the steps of a vanished civilization, not in ruins, but in rhythm, in the echoes of temples, in the placement of cities, in the stories told beneath stars. Freemasonry honors this process. Its great journey is not outward, but inward, not conquest, but recovery. Its compass does not just divide space, it orients the soul toward higher understanding. And perhaps the reason the New World so captivated the Masonic mind was not because it was new, but because it was ancient in disguise. So tonight, imagine a ship in quiet waters, the sails filled with a wind that remembers. A crew not only seeking trade winds, but following stories whispered in lodges and libraries. They are not lost. They are listening. The stars above them, the myths behind them, the compass before them. And somewhere ahead, hidden in fog and time, lies not just land, but legacy. In our next chapter, we return once more to the keepers of silence, to the Templars, the warrior monks whose sudden rise and mysterious fall may hold keys to this journey of remembrance. Did they, too, carry fragments of Atlantis across the sands of Jerusalem and into the vaults of time? For now, let your thoughts drift westward, over quiet seas, beneath a moon that knows. You are sailing not into sleep, but into memory. In the twilight of the medieval world, a new order rose from shadow and dust, knights sworn not only to battle, but to protect secrets older than kingdoms. The Knights Templar, clad in white, mantles marked with the crimson cross, carried the weight of faith and mystery, their mission far beyond the holy wars of men. Tonight, we wander through their whispered history, seeking threads that might weave back to Atlantis, a twilight empire lost to time, yet never forgotten. Founded in the early 12th century, the Templars were at first simple protectors, guardians of pilgrims journeying to Jerusalem. But soon they became keepers of something else, a treasury of knowledge. Their vast holdings included ancient scrolls, relics, and artifacts that scholars still debate today. Some say the Templars discovered texts revealing a civilization beyond history. A civilization whose wisdom had been submerged by cataclysm and silence. The parallels between the Templars' fall and the legend of Atlantis are haunting. Accused of heresy, greed, and forbidden worship, they were hunted, imprisoned, and erased from the record. Their vast network dismantled under night's cold shadow. Could this purge have been more than political? Could it have been a deliberate silencing of knowledge, a destruction of guardians who carried the last flickering lights of a drowned empire's wisdom? Templar lore often speaks of a lost kingdom beneath the waves, a paradise before the flood. Their secretive rituals contain symbolism of death and rebirth, of sunken cities rising again, and of a divine architect who orders the cosmos. This architect is not unlike the great builders of Atlantis, who Plato described as masters of geometry, astronomy, and harmony. The Templars' famous headquarters, from the austere fortress of Acre to the enigmatic Temple Mount in Jerusalem, were more than military bases. They were sanctuaries of sacred geometry, where stone and symbol met in quiet dialogue. Within these walls, the ancient blueprints may have been studied, encoded into architecture, preserved in silence. Stories tell of Templar knights venturing beyond the known world, to distant lands and mysterious isles. Some speculate they sought Atlantean relics, artifacts of power and knowledge that might restore balance to a fractured world. Their downfall, sudden and brutal, may have scattered these relics into secret chambers and hidden vaults. As the Templars disappeared from history, their legend only grew, whispered in the same breath as other secret societies, including the Freemasons, who later claimed spiritual descent from the knightly order. Could the Freemasons be the Twilight's heirs, guardians of the dimming light, charged with carrying the flame forward into new eras? Atlantis and the Templars share a rhythm, a rise, a fall, a hidden truth beneath layers of myth and fear. Each was an empire of order and knowledge. Each faced destruction from forces unseen, not only enemies of flesh, but of forgetting. And so their stories merge like tides, intertwining in the vast ocean of memory. As you drift closer to sleep tonight, picture a Templar knight in quiet prayer, hands folded not just in devotion, but in guardianship of a secret as old as time. The knight's armor glimmers softly in moonlight, reflecting not just steel, but the echoes of Atlantis, a beacon in the twilight. In our next chapter, we will explore the symbols, the cryptic signs, the secret marks, the encoded messages hidden in plain sight by those who sought to protect Atlantis' memory from erasure. For now, rest in the calm embrace of this twilight hour. Know that some lights never fully fade, they only change form. Symbols speak in silence. They whisper truths without uttering a single word, secrets folded gently into shapes and shadows. Waiting for the patient eye to see. Tonight, we unravel the quiet language hidden beneath stone and parchment, tracing the delicate marks left by those who sought to preserve a lost world, a world drowned not in water alone, but in forgetfulless. From the compass and square of the Freemasons to the rose and cross of the Rosicrucians, each symbol is a page of an unwritten book, a glyph carved in shadow, holding the pulse of forgotten knowledge. These emblems were never mere decoration. They were keys, gates, and guardians inviting initiates to look deeper, to remember what was hidden beneath myth. The square, a simple tool, became a metaphor for morality, for aligning the self to higher laws, for building a temple within. The compass, tracing circles wide and narrow, speaks of the heavens and the cycles that govern all things, an ancient rhythm known to those who once walked Atlantis' streets. Together, they frame a sacred geometry, an architecture of the soul, secret. Marks appear not only in lodges, but on ancient buildings, manuscripts, and tombstones. The double-headed eagle, the all-seeing eye, the pillars of Boaz and Jachin, each symbol layered with meaning, each a silent sentinel guarding knowledge from prying eyes. These signs have traveled through time, encoded with warnings and wisdom, waiting to be read not with haste, but with care. In Masonic ritual, symbols unfold like petals, revealing teachings of balance, transformation, and light. They reflect a world where everything is connected, where the microcosm mirrors the macrocosm, where the journey of the initiate mirrors the journey of humankind. These symbols may echo Atlantean knowledge, encoded wisdom passed down through rituals, so subtle they seem like dreams. Consider the labyrinth, another enduring symbol, a winding path that leads inward, through darkness and mystery, toward a center of revelation. Is it a map of the mind? Of the lost city beneath the waves, or both? The labyrinth invites us to slow down, to turn inward, to surrender the need for clarity and embrace the journey itself. Symbolism is a language of paradox, simple, yet infinitely deep. Silent, yet profoundly loud. It preserves what words cannot hold. The ineffable, the sacred, the eternal. In this way, symbols serve as bridges, connecting eras, cultures, and souls. Tonight, as you grow heavy with sleep, imagine these symbols glowing softly in the dark. They are not locked away. They are not lost. They are waiting, silent, patient, eternal. In our next chapter, we will explore the hidden rituals, the ceremonies and mysteries performed in shadow that keep the flame of Atlantis alive through act and experience. For now, let the quiet language of symbols gently carry you into dreams. Rituals are the breath of mystery, silent dances between the seen and unseen, acts that transform space and spirit, igniting a flame no wind can extinguish. Tonight, we enter the sacred circle where gestures, words, and symbols weave together to carry the pulse of forgotten worlds, to kindle a hidden flame that flickers still beneath the veil of time. In Freemasonry and other secret societies, rituals are not mere ceremony. They are journeys, thresholds crossed with intention and care. Each step, each phrase, each symbol holds a key, unlocking chambers within the heart and mind, guiding initiates toward inner illumination. The flame they seek is not of fire and smoke, but of wisdom and awakening, a light passed hand to hand, generation to generation, from ancient Atlantis to the present moment. Consider the candidate standing before the lodge, blindfolded, vulnerable, and ready to learn. This darkness is a sacred beginning, a return to the primordial night before the dawn of memory. Through ritual, the darkness is not feared, but embraced as fertile soil where seeds of knowledge can sprout and grow. The hidden flame is also a metaphor for the spark within every seeker, the quiet fire of curiosity, courage, and transformation. It is a flame that survives storms, suppression, and time itself. Even when empires fall and libraries burn, this flame endures in hearts and hands. Rituals unfold like stories told in shadows, with pauses pregnant with meaning, movements slow and deliberate. They teach that knowledge is not only in the mind, but in the body and spirit, in breath and posture, in silence. They remind us that wisdom is not possession, but participation. Some say that in these ceremonies, fragments of Atlantean wisdom are preserved, echoes of a civilization that understood the sacred geometry of existence, the harmony of the stars, the sacred balance between humanity and nature, though hidden beneath layers of allegory and metaphor. These rituals carry the pulse of that lost world, a heartbeat that still resonates. As the initiate move through each degree, they symbolically die and are reborn, shedding ignorance, embracing light, stepping closer to the truth whispered. Across millennia, this process is both personal and collective, a quiet revolution within, mirroring the hoped-for renewal of a world long submerged. Tonight, as you grow sleepy and still, imagine yourself as the initiate, standing within the circle, feeling the warmth of the hidden flame, knowing that this light is part of you, a bridge to the past and a beacon for the future. In our next chapter, we will reflect on the modern echoes, how these ancient mysteries continue to ripple through our culture, our dreams, and our search for meaning. For now, Rest in the glow of the hidden flame, a quiet light guiding you toward peaceful sleep. As the centuries unfold like the pages of a well-worn book, the whispers of Atlantis and its hidden truths ripple softly into our modern world. Though shrouded by time's veil, the flame kindled by ancient seekers still flickers, illuminating minds and hearts in unexpected places. Tonight, we listen for those echoes, the subtle signs that the past has never truly vanished, but lives, on in dreams, symbols, and the quiet search for meaning. In cities bustling with neon and steel, and in quiet rooms lined with books and candlelight, people still gather in circles, some called lodges, some called study groups, drawn by an invisible thread to mysteries older than history itself. The Freemasons endure, their rituals adapted, yet timeless, a bridge between worlds, a living tradition that carries fragments of forgotten wisdom. Beyond secret societies, Atlantis has become a symbol of lost potential, of a paradise lost and yet hoped for. It shapes art, literature, and philosophy, beckoning us to remember that beneath the surface of our lives lies a deeper, richer current. In the 20th and 21st centuries, explorers of the mind and spirit have sought to decode this current through psychology, esotericism, and science. Carl Jung saw Atlantis as a collective archetype, a symbol of the human quest for wholeness, for integration of shadow and light. Others turned to archaeology and geology, seeking physical evidence beneath the waves and sands. Modern storytelling continues to weave Atlantis into our cultural fabric, from novels and films to music and poetry, each echo adding a new layer, a new question, a new hope. This ongoing dialogue between past and present reminds us that myth and history are not opposites, but partners in the dance of understanding. Technology itself can be seen as a new kind of ritual, tools and codes that connect us across vast distances. Symbols transformed into digital light, the search for knowledge, once the domain of secret orders, is now a collective endeavor. Yet the allure of mystery remains, a testament to the enduring human desire to know, to belong, to awaken. As you settle deeper into sleep's gentle embrace, feel the pulse of this ancient flame, not distant or cold, but warm and near, a light within you. It is the spark of curiosity, the quiet courage to question, the soft glow of memory calling us home. In the coming quiet hours, may this light guide your dreams, a beacon from the depths of time, inviting you to rest, to wonder, and to awaken anew. As the waves of history gently recede, leaving behind only faint traces in the sand, we find ourselves drawn not to distant lands beneath the sea, but to the vast uncharted ocean within. Atlantis, the lost city of legend, becomes a mirror reflecting the hidden realms of the human soul, a symbol not only of what was lost, but of what quietly endures deep beneath our conscious mind. Tonight, we turn inward to explore the Atlantis that dwells within each of us, a realm of dreams, memories, and ancient wisdom, waiting patiently beneath layers of everyday thought. This inner Atlantis is not a place of ruins, but a living landscape of symbols and emotions, of hopes and fears, of light and shadow. Like the sunken city, the self is composed of many layers, some visible, some submerged. There are depths where forgotten truths reside, and currents of intuition that flow beneath the surface. In this hidden realm, time folds upon itself. Past and future blend, and the present moment becomes an eternal sea of possibility. The myths of Atlantis remind us that destruction and rebirth are part of the same cycle, that endings give rise to new beginnings, and that beneath loss lies the seed of transformation. This cycle plays out within our hearts, in moments of darkness followed by sudden insight, and times of stillness that open to deep knowing. Through reflection, ritual, and the language of symbols, we can navigate this inner ocean. We can find the compass that points us toward healing, toward wholeness. The ancient wisdom carried by Freemasons, Templars, and seekers alike is a map for this journey, a guide to reclaiming the light buried in shadow dot as you drift toward sleep. Allow your mind to swim gently through this quiet sea. There is no need to rush or resist. Embrace the mystery. Trust the process. The Atlantis within you is vast, full of hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. May this journey inward bring you peace and comfort, a sense of belonging to something timeless and true. And when morning comes, may you carry a quiet flame, a light to guide your way through the waking world. Rest now, gently and deeply, cradled by the soft tides of memory and dream. In the quiet shadows of history, there exist those who walk unseen, silent guardians of knowledge too, precious for the world's clamor, keepers of the lost wisdom, whose vigil stretches across centuries and continents. Tonight, we lean close to their whispers, seeking to understand the delicate threads they protect and the weight of secrets carried with quiet devotion. These guardians have worn many faces, monks in cloistered abbeys, knights of shadowed orders, scholars poring over faded manuscripts, and artisans crafting symbols into stone. Though nameless to most, their work pulses beneath the surface, a steady heartbeat in the vast body of human memory. The Freemasons claim a lineage that echoes this ancient stewardship, tracing back through the Templars, Rosicrucians, and earlier orders, a continuous chain bound by the shared duty to preserve truth. They are both custodians and initiates, balancing the sacred flame, passing it with reverence and care from one generation to the next. What is this wisdom they guard? Not simply facts or artifacts, but a deeper knowing of harmony, balance, and the connection between heaven and earth. It is a knowledge that transcends language, encoded in symbols, rituals, and stories, a living tradition that whispers of Atlantis and other lost realms. The silent guardians move carefully, avoiding the glare of power and fame, protecting knowledge from those who would twist or destroy it. Their secrecy is not exclusion, but preservation, a way to shield fragile truths until the world is ready to receive them. In our modern age, the role of these keepers remains vital. As information floods the airwaves, the challenge is not just to know, but to understand, to sift wisdom from noise. The guardians remind us that some knowledge requires patience, humility, and quiet contemplation, a slow unfolding rather than a sudden revelation. As you settle deeper into rest, picture these silent figures in the twilight, watching, waiting, holding the torch aloft in the dark. Their light is steady and calm, a beacon for those who seek not just to learn, but to truly remember. In the chapters to come, we will explore how this lineage threads into today's world, how the silent guardian's flame flickers in unexpected places. For now, rest in the assurance that some truths endure, protected by those who walk gently among the shadows, beneath the surface of history's great tapestry, run threads unseen, delicate, enduring, connecting distant epochs and secret moments. This hidden lineage stretches like a quiet river, winding through time's shifting sands, binding ancient wisdom to modern light. Tonight, we follow these subtle threads, tracing the pathways of knowledge passed hand to hand, from the sunken shores of Atlantis to today's hidden halls. Lineage is more than blood or name. It is a living thread of trust, a sacred thread woven from shared mysteries and promises. Through war and peace, through silence and revelation, this lineage has survived, carried by those who knew the value of memory. The Freemasons often speak of this lineage, a chain of craftsmen and seekers, builders not only of stone, but of spirit. Their rituals honor ancestors whose work transcended time, who encoded lessons into the very foundations of their craft. From the ancient priests and philosophers of Egypt and Greece to the medieval alchemists and secret orders, the line continues. A river flowing beneath the surface of recorded history, nourishing hidden gardens of wisdom. Each keeper of this lineage is both student and teacher, a link in an unbroken chain that stretches across centuries. This shared heritage is not static, but alive, evolving with each generation's light and shadow. Sometimes this lineage is marked by symbols and rituals, sometimes by whispered stories passed in quiet rooms, but always it is a commitment to protect, to learn, and to pass on. As you drift into sleep's gentle embrace, imagine yourself as part of this lineage, a thread in the vast fabric of time, connected to countless seekers before and after you. The hidden lineage is a living flame, flickering softly, but never extinguished. In our next chapter, we will explore the sacred texts and forbidden books, the written whispers of Atlantis' legacy, guarded through ages by the keepers of the hidden flame. For now, rest in the quiet knowing that you are part of a story far greater than yourself, a story that continues to unfold with every breath. In the quiet corners of ancient libraries, behind locked doors and hidden shelves, lie books that speak in shadows, whispers inked in secrecy, guardians of truths, too fragile, too profound for the light of day. Tonight, we open the fragile pages of forbidden books, manuscripts that carry the echoes of Atlantis' vanished wisdom, secrets scribbled in cipher and metaphor, waiting for the patient reader to listen deeply. These texts are more than words on parchment. They are vessels of memory encoded with symbols and riddles, guarding knowledge that time and tyranny have sought to erase. The writings of Plato, with his tale of Atlantis, are among the earliest whispers, a story woven into philosophy, history, and myth. Beyond Plato, other manuscripts hint at lost civilizations, at advanced sciences and spiritual teachings forgotten by most. From the Egyptian Book of the Dead to the Voynich manuscript, from Hermetic texts to the arcane writings of the alchemists, these forbidden books form a constellation of hidden knowledge. The very act of writing was sacred, a ritual of preservation and protection. Scribes and scholars risked censure and worse. Believing the truth must survive in shadow, these books are puzzles, inviting seekers to unlock layers of meaning, not with force, but with reverence and patience. The Freemasons and related orders have long guarded copies or fragments, preserving the wisdom in coded rituals and allegories. These texts formed the foundation of secret teachings, guiding initiates toward the light hidden beneath the myth. In the modern age, some forbiddance books have resurfaced, revealed slowly to new generations hungry for connection. Yet their true meaning often remains elusive, like stars glimpsed through mist. They remind us that some knowledge is not meant to be rushed, but savored, reflected upon, and carried gently. As you prepare to rest, imagine these ancient books, glowing softly in the dark, their pages turning on invisible breezes, whispering secrets across the centuries, calling you to dream deeply of lost worlds and hidden truths. In the final chapter, we will bring our journey to a gentle close, reflecting on the enduring mystery of Atlantis and the quiet flame of remembrance that still burns within us all. For now, rest in the hush of these written whispers, safe in the embrace of timeless stories. Some stories do not end. They return like tides, rising softly in dreams, lingering in forgotten symbols, waiting in the quiet corners of the soul. Atlantis, whether real or allegory, has never truly vanished. Its memory flickers still, not just beneath the ocean, but within the deep waters of the human spirit. We began with a question. Did the Freemasons erase the truth about Atlantis? But perhaps as we have gently wandered through these chapters, we found a deeper, subtler truth, not erasure, but protection, not denial, but a sacred guarding. Through temples, through lodges, through whispered rites and hidden symbols, a thread has been kept alive, tenuous, luminous, eternal. Freemasons, Templars, Rosicrucians, alchemists, builders, poets, they have all played their part, holding the ember of something ancient, something sacred, not just a city, not just a map, but a vision of what humanity once was, and might be again. Atlantis was harmony made manifest. Its geometry reflected the divine, its order mirrored the cosmos. But when that harmony was broken, it did not simply fall into the sea, it fell into myth, where it could rest safely until we were ready to understand. In every story, since every lost civilization, every secret brotherhood, every awakening dream, we feel the echo, and maybe that is the point. Maybe Atlantis was never meant to be recovered in stone or sand. Maybe it was meant to be remembered as a compass for the soul. The Freemasons did not bury the truth. They enshrined it, wrapped it in silence, encoded it in ritual, and entrusted it to those who seek with humility. Because Atlantis, like all true wisdom, cannot be handed down. It must be earned, unfolded slowly, gently awakened within. Tonight and always Atlantis lives not beneath the sea, but in you. In your longing for balance, in your reverence for beauty, in your hunger for truth. It rises each time you build something with care, each time you act with integrity, each time you listen deeply, beyond words. So rest now, dreamer. You have walked far. You have journeyed through temples, symbols, rituals, through flood and fire, silence and shadow. You have remembered the forgotten. And though you may never set foot on the lost continent itself, you now carry its flame. Let it burn quietly, a light not to boast, but to guide, through your choices, through your wonder, through your stillness. For Atlantis was never only about the past. It is also a promise of what may come again, when we are ready. So sleep softly. Now, the sea is calm, the stars are bright, and the eternal flame of Atlantis glows quietly within you. Always.